One of my fondest memories of Nintendo Power Magazine was reading their list of the top 30 NES games. And you could track those games month after month to see which ones were rising and falling in their rankings. And I loved seeing the games that I was into showing up on that list. It was validation for me that other people shared my same tastes. So today, in that spirit, I'm going to share with you my top 30 NES games. But there's one small caveat. In order to qualify for my list, I have to have actually completed the game in question and posted a video of it on the channel. That way you know that these rankings are not just being made up out of nowhere, but they're actually coming from experience. Are we good? Did we get that? Oh, I'm so nervous! Now this is the third episode in this series that I've done, so I've posted the links to the prior 2 episodes in the description below this video. I'll be referencing that throughout today's list in case I've covered a game previously. But we will be touching on all 30 titles to get you caught up to where we are on our journey. And lastly, before we start, and if you're still watching this, please take a moment and click that subscribe button for me. That might seem like a small thing, but subscriber count is a huge factor in YouTube's algorithm to pushing this video to a wider audience. So that free 2-second step that you just took helped us out tremendously. I really appreciate it. And now it is time for Retro Nate's Top 30 NES Games. So far. So good! The anchor at the bottom of this list. This game is a complete puke pile, and I give a full breakdown of why in episode 2. Let's move it right along and not give this thing any more airtime than it deserves. There are audible groans that can be heard when the name of this game is even mentioned. Many people talk at length about how terrible this game is, but I have a slightly different opinion. Let me be clear, the game is not good, which seems obvious as it's second from the bottom of our list. However, I don't believe it's among the worst on the console like some seem to. The Jekyll stages are definitely boring and the bomb hitboxes are erratic. But some of the mechanics and rules they built into this game have some purpose. I go through my complete thoughts on that in a little more depth in the full walkthrough. But all that to say there is a sizable gap between this game and Back to the Future. To this game's credit, there are at least multiple endings on this one, including an ominous foreboding of Mr. Hyde's return. Nonetheless, it sits at number 29. Battletoads was the first game I reviewed in the beginning of episode 1. I get more enjoyment out of saying I can complete it than I do actually playing it.
Okay.
Number 27, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, was covered in episode 2. There are a litany of reasons that this game isn't that great. I'm a huge TMNT fan, but this was a huge letdown. Newly added to the list at number 26 is Russian strongman and circus performer Jinborov Karnovsky, or Karnov for short. 9 of the truly strangest levels I've played so far on the console, but I did find the game oddly intoxicating. The enemies and bosses are rather repetitive, but I thoroughly enjoyed the music and controls as I navigated through this one. Improving Karnov's weapon to a triple shot is very satisfying, and I liked the variety of items you collect and determining the right ways to use them. It's just a fun, moderately difficult platformer that isn't a huge time commitment. Unfortunately, when you finally do finish it, you get absolutely nothing for an ending screen. But overall, the game is fine. Another new addition to our list at number 25 is Data East arcade game ported to the NES, Bad Dudes. The intro screen to this game is epic. No fanfare, no story, just ninjas kidnapping the president, and it's up to you to save him. The game plays pretty well for an arcade port, and our good friend Karnov even makes an appearance at the end of level 1. Now, Bad Dudes is moderately difficult, but I made it even more so in the walkthrough because I didn't know about the charge punch. Thanks for highlighting that for me, Full Nelson Tecmo. The music in this is solid, and I loved the boss rush at the end prior to the final battle. It also features a satisfying ending and credit sequence befitting of an arcade beat-em-up. Bad Dudes is just a meat and potatoes, fun game to go through.
My balls!
At 24, we have The Adventures of Bayou Billy, which I covered in episode 1. This game is way better than it's remembered, and despite being in the bottom third of my list, it's a pretty fun game to go through. Jaws comes in at number 23 and is featured in episode 2. I've yet to find someone who doesn't like this game. One of the few LJN titles that doesn't completely suck. New to the list at number 22 is this wonderful little puzzle game featuring our favorite blue puff with eyes, Lolo. I thought this game was right in the sweet spot of difficulty mixed with nice graphics and level design, but what I loved most was the structure. This game doesn't overwhelm you with information right away, which I appreciated. The first 10 levels or so expose you to all of the obstacles you'll encounter, and then it's a full go for the rest of the game. It presents a good challenge and offers passwords for gamers to continue where they left off. It's the simplicity of this game that allows for an enjoyable experience and focuses right on the gamer's problem-solving ability, the true heart of a puzzle game. Plus, you get a nice little ending sequence when you finish it. Adventures of Lolo gets my full recommendation for any of you puzzle gamers out there. At 21 is the little-known interstellar racing game, Galaxy 5000. This game incorporates vehicle upgrades, weapons power-ups, and even has dynamic gravitational pull from planet to planet as you race through the Milky Way galaxy. While it's racing at heart, it feels a little RPG-ish as you progress, and I can't adequately describe the satisfaction when you blow up a CPU opponent either. It's like sanctioned road rage. You also get a nice little twist at the end, which you can check out in the walkthrough. This game has really smooth controls, unique track designs, and great interactive CPU opponents to race against. If anyone out there is a racing fan and you've played the mainstream titles like RC Pro-Am or Excitebike, give this one a shot. You will not be disappointed. The first title in our top 20 is Jackal, which I covered during episode 2. This is a very enjoyable action shoot-'em-up from Konami, which is what we've come to expect from them. At 19, we have Super C. Covered in episode 1, this is a wonderful game that's not quite as good as the first installment. We're now beginning to get into the particularly strong titles that the NES has to offer. Astyanax is number 18 on the list, and we covered this in episode 2. I think it's safe to say this one is among the hidden gems on the console. Very much worth your time to try if you never have. I was pleasantly surprised. Rygar is next, another game I covered in episode 2. Really ambitious game that brings an open-world concept to side-scrolling. I like this one a lot, but now it's time to add a new one to the list. At 16, I'm adding a truly unique game to the list, Star Tropics. I completed this during our live streams and was glad to introduce people to it this way. I liked the blend between overworld tasks and action stages, and the jump mechanics with the blocks is a nice touch to add variety to the design. And I'd be remiss if I didn't call out the soundtrack on this one, which was very strong. You're hearing the main theme for the underworld stages, which is an earworm. And Zoda provided a thorough challenge as a final boss, and if you check out the walkthrough on the channel, I get very close to rage quitting before ultimately ousting the boss and rescuing those poor aliens imprisoned in cubes. Yeah, this game's a little out there, but still a strong one. We're in the top half now, and coming in at 15 is the game featured in my first ever walkthrough on the channel, Mega Man. I touch on this game in episode 1 if you want the full rundown, but she is a beauty. New to this list is a Capcom game based on the cartoon of the same name, DuckTales, at number 14. This game features crisp cartoon graphics, controls, and has one of the strongest soundtracks end-to-end on the console. The level design in this one is awesome, featuring tons of hidden areas and secrets to discover. The cane jumping mechanic takes a little bit to master, but it's a unique change of pace from most games. And this one contains 3 possible endings that can be attained with varying degrees of difficulty, adding greatly to the replay value. While I enjoyed the game thoroughly, it wasn't overly difficult, despite the difficulty settings that are available to you. but this is a great title to show off to someone who's interested in learning what NES games are all about. Very enjoyable and satisfying. At 13, we have Castlevania, which was discussed in full in episode 1. From here on out, we're dealing with absolute bangers on the NES. This is a fantastic game. And just one rung up on the ladder, at number 12, is the sequel, Castlevania II: Simon's Quest. This was covered in episode 2 of this series. I was surprised to find I was one of the few people who liked this game more than the original. I admittedly do have a soft spot for Metroidvanias. It pains me to see The Dark Knight fall out of my top 10, and now see Batman landing at number 11. But I still have some great games to put on this list. I covered this one in full in episode 2.
Sonic Boom!
New to my list and immediately making an impact on the top 10 is Konami's iconic stealth hero Solid Snake in Metal Gear. I had never played this game as a child, so I don't even have nostalgia to fall back on here. There was just something about the complexity of this game that grabbed me immediately. Every scene causes your heart to skip a beat as you wait to see what enemies lie in each room. The clues are cryptic at times, but the game gives you everything you need to get through it if you're paying attention. I loved the variety of items and their uses, not the least of which is the use of the starting item, the cigarettes, as the last item used in the game. Just a beautiful touch there. But it's the leveling system that might have actually been the most sophisticated feature of this title. Having your health, inventory space, and respawn point improving with your rank is really a genius move. And then they leverage that, forcing you to be at the highest rank if you want to truly clear the game and destroy the supercomputer at the end. It's got great boss fights littered throughout the game, and the reveal and escape sequence at the end are top-notch. And then, to top it off, throw Kyle Reese on the cover of the game. That scores a lot of points as well.
Number nine.
The hero from the line of Erdrick enters our list at number 9 in Dragon Warrior. This was the first title I decided to live stream on the channel, and what a fantastic choice it was. This game somehow manages to pull off being 80% level grinding and 20% action without making the game feel like you're running through the mud. One thing I appreciated was the simplicity of the tasks and how having to level up significantly to tackle them added to the anticipation. If you go somewhere prematurely and get wiped out, it adds a level of fear that actually adds to the experience. Sort of a, I'd better not go there again until I'm ready sort of thing. The score for this game is simple and absolutely embeds itself in your brain in a matter of seconds. And the final trek through Charlotte Castle to take on the Dragon Lord is suspenseful, and the ending battle with the Dragon Lord is masterful. There's no wonder they've made about 15 more of these games since the first was released. A marvelous game and well-deserving of a top 10 spot.
Whopper, 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 whopper.
Crystallis is hanging in there at number 8. I covered this game in episode 1, and it's dropped a few spots since then, but still a very worthy title of being in the top 10. Now we've entered the elite tier of games. Mega Man 2 is my number 7, and also showed up in episode 1 of this series. It's held its top 10 position despite numerous adds to the list since. It's a universally loved game, and it is easy to see why. Mega Man 3 is at number 6, and I cover this game in episode 2. This installment is my favorite in the Mega Man franchise so far, and drops just out of the top 5 at this point. Still holding down a top 5 spot is my personal favorite, Contra, which we covered in episode 1. Just putting this video together is a reminder to me that I need to play it again. It's that kind of a game. Another title from our first episode shifts to number 4 on the list this time. Capcom is well represented in our top 10, and for good reason. Bionic Commando is firmly entrenched among the elite titles on the console. Finally, we reach a new addition to our list, and it makes an enormous splash coming in at number 3 overall, Final Fantasy. This RPG has such a wonderful balance and variety of things to focus on. Party selection, level grinding, armor and weapons upgrades, magic upgrades, key items to acquire, boss fights. It keeps so many plates spinning and does so effortlessly. I loved the different enemy classes and figuring out their elemental strengths and weaknesses. It's a lot of fun. And the replay value on this game is tremendous, with different party constructions offering completely different levels of difficulty to clear the game. The story is deep, and it's such an understated thing, but I love the use of the loot that's acquired in the beginning of the game, needed to access the final temple. Chaos is a top-tier final boss, and you get a very in-depth and satisfying ending sequence when the game's complete. The soundtrack is fantastic, the graphics are awesome. Final Fantasy is a worthy game to receive a top 3 honor.
Hey!
At number 2 is Ninja Gaiden, which actually topped my list after episode 1. I'm still stunned by how engrossing the cutscenes from this one are. It remains my runner-up at this point on the journey. And for the second straight episode, Metroid comes in at number 1. My full review is available in episode 2, but I think it will be a very tall task for a game to unseat this one. It left an indelible mark on me playing through it. But I suppose we'll see if it can be unseated in the weeks and months ahead. So there it is, my top 30 NES games so far. What do you think? Leave me a comment letting me know what you would do differently, and be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, as both are free ways that make a big difference supporting us. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.